righty, well, it's 7:02, so we're going to call to order the November 8th Kensington Town Council meeting. And we will start with a moment of silence. Does anyone have anyone that they want to lift up? I'm going to be somewhat vague on this because I don't have a lot of information, but if you ever went to Ellie's bookshop, there was a gentleman named Carl that liked to hang out in the shop. He wore a like a railroad cap. And I ran into Ellie at the Urban Thrift open house earlier this week or last week. And she let me know that Carl had passed away of cancer. So I don't know Carl that well, but he was kind of a fixture in Ellie's shop and out in front of the apartments with George and Alice and Ellie. And so I just want to lift him up and think about him. He will be missed. So we can just bow our heads for a minute. Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes. Council, you received the town council minutes for October 18th. I believe there was just a small change that Connor had suggested, adding a header and I believe a little format change, but otherwise there was no other changes to the minutes. Is that correct? Okay, if we can get a motion.
I'll make a motion. I'll move to approve the minutes from the October town council meeting as amended.
Okay. All right, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we also had the closed session meeting minutes on October 21st, and I did not hear any changes to that. So if I can get a motion to approve those minutes.
Sure, I will move to approve the minutes from the closed session on October 21st, 2021.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. And I want to welcome back Councilmember Hill Zayat. Welcome, Bridget. And for those who don't know, Bridget's been on a maternity leave after having her little baby, Maya, her little girl. So I know Maya's somewhere in the background, somewhere, waiting to be pricked with a needle or something so that she, mom might have
a rough day.
I bet. So anyway, so we hope Bridget will be able to hang in there as long as she can. So anyway. All right, so let's move down to the mayor and town council. Just want to acknowledge that the town council did have a closed session on October 21st, 2021. We met in a closed session in accordance with section 3-305B7 of the general provisions article to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice. Number 2, that is the audit committee report. I want to acknowledge receipt of the audit committee's report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021. Number 3, the County Redistricting Commission. I've asked, this is an update on the redistricting map that the commission had recommended, which would move us from District 1 that we're currently in into District 4. I've asked Darren to start the conversation on that. Darren?
Yeah, so I'll just give a little background on it. I don't know how long it's been since we were in District 1, but as a result of the election last year, Montgomery County Council has expanded from 5 districts to 7, with continuing to have 4 at-large districts. So the county council appointed a redistricting commission, which was tasked with dividing the county into 7 parts instead of 5 parts. There were originally 3 maps presented by different redistricting commission members. All of them, they started from the premise that Gaithersburg and Rockville should be in one district. And a couple of other thoughts were don't make the western part of the county look weird. Don't make it look gerrymandered. And then another principle that I heard, I said in most of the meetings, was try to preserve Eastern Montgomery County as a voting block, because it's primarily a Black area. And they felt like by keeping it concentrated Black, that it would have a greater chance of sending a Black council member to the county council. So once they did that, they were left with Tacoma Park and Silver Spring as one district, and then just because you're going from 5 to 7 districts, you had to shrink the size of District 1, which used to be Tacoma, Bethesda, and Silver Spring, or Chevy Chase, and us. And the way they seem to have done it was to say, well, we've got the Silver Spring district, the Silver Spring and Tacoma Park, and we're going to head up northwest and pick up as many people as we need to in order to create a relatively balanced district population wise. And so in the first couple of maps that were presented, it grabbed Chevy Chase View, Tacoma Park, Garrett Park, and Kensington. And then because they wanted to tweak the map a little bit to bring in more people into District 1, which again was Bethesda, Chevy Chase, Potomac, they ended up in the final presentation of this map going all the way up into North Bethesda. So my personal view is that Kensington shares almost nothing in common with Tacoma Park. And it's to me, it's weird when you look at the shape. It's weird when you consider, whereas we seem to have a lot in common with the district as it goes down Connecticut Avenue, just because of the nature of the metro, which is big U shape for the red line. We just don't have that much in common with Tacoma Park. So I've pushed us to ask the county council if they're going to reopen this process, which they have every right to do under the law, to consider, does this make sense, or is Kensington just being used as a bucket of people that they move where they need them in order to balance the population? So the county council, I don't remember the exact date. Maybe somebody can give me a phone a friend help here. I think it's maybe the 18th, is going to consider the Redistricting Commission's report. They have 90 days to consider whether to redraw the lines themselves. I understand when a similar process was undertaken in Prince George's County, the county council actually did come up with their own map. And so we just have to sort of decide where we would like to be, what are our common interests, and what should we advocate for. Is that what you were looking for, Tracy?
Yes, and I'll just add to that we have reached out to both Chevy Chase View and Garrett Park regarding what their thoughts are on this issue, because we do feel like if we're going to ask them to redraw the map, that it would be better if the 3 municipalities would be together in asking for the same thing. So we have they've been, I know Chevy Chase View has appointed 2 elected officials to kind of look at the issue, and Garrett Park is meeting tonight, and they're planning on doing the same.
Yes.
So council members, you have any questions? Nate?
Yeah, I guess, I think my view is that I agree with Darren that I think there's not much we have in common with Tacoma Park. I was actually happier with the maps that put us together with Wheaton, because I think there's at least some connectivity with that community. So yeah, I think, if we have to take the lesser of 2 evils, so to say, I would opt for one of the other maps that was already put forward, one of the other 2. But I think the other concern is more related to the issue of KENGAR. I know that Ann Lichter posted this on the listserv last night, but my same reaction is that right now KENGAR isn't in our district. It's in District 4. But I see this as a pretty good opportunity to further strengthen ties with them. I mean, we're really pushing that connectivity both in the Racial Justice Committee and then also, you know, with what we're doing, the Pedestrian, Bicycling, and Safety Access Working Group, through engaging KENGAR residents in, you know, their views on what we're doing for the study and the designation as a priority area for bicycling and pedestrians. So I feel like this is, you know, granted, we're not 100% sure of the views of the residents of KENGAR, but from my interactions with residents of the community is that they feel ties with Kensington. So I feel like between now and November, it'd be good to get the temperature, more residents. And I think Anne said she was also reaching out. I'm reaching out to get a sense if we should be advocating for that, because I think it is an opportunity that would be missed if we didn't pursue it in this effort.
Okay. Connor, do you have any thoughts you want to share before we open it up?
No, I think my thoughts actually kind of dovetail and weave together with what Darren and Nate both said. Thinking about other large topics affecting, you know, that are county or state driven that affect the town. When we do outreach, I'm thinking Thrive and attainable housing and traffic. It's largely, you know, Garrett Park, Chevy Chase View, the other Chevy Chases straight down Connecticut, as Darren was talking about, and we talk to them all the time. We exchange ideas frequently. We work on strategies together frequently, and that's why there's a cohesion along that Connecticut Avenue corridor. To our friends in Tacoma Park, great community, but geographically and other things just so separated that even though they are a municipality and we are a municipality, very rarely have or the town really had to engage with them. I think there is cohesion keeping us together where we are. And to Nate's point, I agree too. I would love to see the bonds between KENGAR and Kensington, including putting us in the same district, just because of exactly where we are located, and they are a part of our, the greater Kensington area. But it all goes down to what Darren said. I feel like they had strong ideas for what they wanted on the east part of the county and strong ideas for what they wanted on the north part of the county, with this overarching idea of Gaithersburg and Rockville. And so everything in the middle, us and Garrett Park and KENGAR and Wheaton, we were all just pieces of population that got moved around in order to hit this magic number of, roughly 150,000 residents in each of the new districts. And so, when you look at the shape of it being a bow tie and how it just doesn't, I don't see the logic other than keeping Silver Spring and Tacoma Park gave them roughly 100,000 and they needed to find 50 more, and they just kind of grabbed in the middle into the pile of people left available to be reassigned. So
it was my understanding the main reason for keeping Rockville and Gaithersburg together is because they both have their own zoning authority and they're huge acreage between the two. So the county wanted to keep them together to try to, I guess, manage it in one district versus having two districts. So that was what it was explained to me by one of the council members. So
it's always hard to work from the inside of the donut out.
True. Because
it all of a sudden put, some land constraints around the rest of the way that these districts could be formed.
Yeah, so instead of doing kind of slices, you're having to go around. So, Bridget, I don't know if you've had much time to follow this, but do you have any thoughts that you'd like to share?
I think it makes sense. I'm kind of curious what the KENGAR folks would think, but everything Darren said makes total sense.
Okay. I know I have to say I was completely, because I had reached out to Andrew Friedson's office when we did the Summit Avenue Bridge. And I'm not even sure that they realized that KENGAR was not in their own district. So it's always been an assumption that we were in the same district. You have to go to their address to find out that they're not, or look at a map. And I never thought I needed to look at a map. So I think having them, whatever district we end up being in, whether it's still 1 or in 4, I think bringing Kengar with Kensington is because we can help advocate much better for them. So I know, Karen, did you want to make any comments? Karen, are you still on? Oh dear.
Okay, I know I'm the past president of the Civic Association, and I hope some other members were on the call. I don't know, but from what I've understood from the residents, they still want to be with Kensington. We have a great history together, and it makes no sense for us to be separated now. I guess at one time or another, we never really realized that we were in different districts. So what can we do to be with Kensington and Gary Park, because we're in between the two? So it makes sense that the rest of us, that we're with the rest of you.
Well, I guess what would make the most sense is that, and I know the Civic Association, since you left, Karen, has not been as strong as it once was when you were leading it. And so if the residents of Kengar can, I know they still have a Civic Association, but if they feel that they have enough support, it would be good for them, because we would certainly write a letter if that's a decision of the council to ask that, we're probably going to ask for a couple of things, but one of the things that we would be asking would be for Kengar to be in the same district as the town. So I don't think that's heavy lifting for the county council to make that change. You're talking about a couple of hundred residents. I don't think that would be disruptive to their map as far as balancing, but we would need guidance. I don't think we should assume anything. So we really need guidance from the residents on what they want to do. So, and to assign somebody who could sign on to a letter as president of the Civic Association in Kengar.
Okay, so what I will do is go back to the listserv and propose this to them. I really believe that the majority of the people are in favor of this. I'll propose about the letter, and Mark Sorton, since he's the president of the Civic Association, I'll see if he will sign on to the letter.
Okay.
I talked to Matt earlier today, and he said that there could possibly be a letter. We could see it first.
Of course.
Before it goes out. And I think, I think that's the way to go. We've always backed each other in a lot of things, and we should continue. They should continue to do the same thing.
Right.
Even though I'm not the president anymore, I'm still doing other things for them that they need, because they're not stepping to the plate to do what needs to be done. So I will push this to them, and I really truly believe that they would agree to a letter with the town.
Okay.
In support.
I mean, the major thing for Kengar to its benefit is, whatever county council person we end up with, because we're a municipality, we do have the larger voice. So, and can help advocate for Kengar and, in certain issues that they may be having. So I think that's the main benefit. I'm not sure, I think Nancy Navarro represents District 4, and I don't know whether she ever visited Kengar or not.
Well, she was when we had the coalition of civic groups. She came once, and then when they did the dedication of the community center, she came. And to my knowledge, we've never really seen Nancy Navarro. So she, I understand that the gentleman you have in Area 1 is a good representative. So me, myself, I would go for that, and that's what I would push for.
Okay.
To be with you all.
All right. Well, it's, I don't, do you have anything else to add? I'll just reach out to other people if you.
No, well, do you have a deadline for the letter or when you need to know if?
Well,
they're,
the council, I mean, I don't want to second guess the council, but I think they're leading towards at least writing a letter asking that Kengar be included in our district. That's how I feel that it's leaning from their discussion. So
Right.
we would have to get, we'll have to make a decision as soon as we finish. So if you can just hang on while we finish opening it up to other members of the public, then we'll decide what we want to do once we've heard from everybody. So can you just hang in for a little
Okay.
bit longer?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Sometimes I come to your meetings.
Okay.
You don't know I'm there, but I'm there. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, hang in there. Does anybody else want to speak on this topic? Don't see any hands. Am I seeing a hand? Oh, Joe?
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Mayor Furman. So what realistically can the town of Kensington do? I mean, this gerrymandering seems to be pretty advanced. And is there anything that the town can do at this late stage? You mentioned, Mayor Furman, that you spoke to Friedson's office. Was there any, what was the reaction from those folks? And is there any hope of reversing this? Because it does look very gerrymandered.
Well, he was not able to say what the entire council would do. He just indicated this was a Zoom meeting that I was on with other municipalities in District 1. And he made the comment about why the commission wanted to keep Rockville and Gaithersburg together and gave that explanation. So, I mean, our personal view is that he should drop Potomac, because Potomac, and then just bring the municipalities, starting with Friendship Heights, up, and then, take back Kensington, Garrett Park, and Chevy Chase View, and now Kengar. And then, of course, it includes a bit of North Bethesda and a bit of Kensington Heights as well. But he didn't give any other explanation of what he planned to do with the map.
And realistically, what do you think the town can do? I mean, is there much, or is it just too far advanced to make a difference now?
Well, I can sort of
You want to say that, Darren?
a little bit. I mean, we haven't done nothing. We joined with the letter of the other down county municipalities, the Chevy Chase's, Friendship Heights, arguing that because we have zoning authority, because we have a common interest in this sector, that we should remain together. And then the draft maps kind of cut off Garrett Park, Chevy Chase View, and Kensington. And so we came back with another letter saying, this looks bad. And well, we didn't say bad, but just that we don't share anything in common with Tacoma Park. I think that however the map ultimately is drawn, I would prefer and ask the council to support that the remaining 3 municipalities, Chevy Chase View, Garrett Park, and Kensington, stay together. And the reason for that is because, as we talked about, we do have separate zoning authority, and so there's a distinct interest apart from what the county council does. If one or more of us were to be drawn up into the Wheaton district, I'm fairly certain that there are no other municipalities in the Wheaton Glenmont district. And so I would rather have a county council member who is acclimated to the idea of there are things that county council should do, and then there are things that municipalities have maybe an additional role in. So as far as, is it too late? I think the answer is, I don't know. I don't know the sense of the council. This is a big county of 1 million people. I don't know what other county council members have as far as concerns about their districts being redrawn. And so whether we get the county council to actually engage in its own map drawing to the point where it can get 5 of the 9 members to support it, that's what we're trying to assess right now.
Well, the redistricting map it was what, a 6-5 vote? So it wasn't even, I mean, not even close. So I think there was a lot of disagreement on the commission. I think my biggest thing about losing, going out of District 1 is the fact that Andrew Friedson has been an excellent county council person. And he represents the largest number of municipalities, understands them, works with them. And I really think we're going to lose that once you go into a larger area where there are fewer of the municipalities. And Kensington is probably, well, we're the largest of that group in District 1 as far as especially what we've got going on. May not be in population, but we are businesses, we're housing, we're apartments. We've got all of that. All the other municipalities in District 1 don't have that.
Thanks, Mayor Furman. I agree with you. I think that Andrew Friedson has done a fine job as representing our district, and he's attuned to Kensington. He's aware of us, and I think he would be great to be retained. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I think we'd just be treated like basically an HOA or something. That's how most of the county council members would think of us. So is there anyone, John, did you have your hand up? John Gerson? Or was that Ann Lichter?
I did not have my hand up.
Okay, Ann, your people switch around. I don't know why that happens.
But John's putting some helpful comments in the.
I am reading those. Yes, go ahead, Ann. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Furman. And I'm sorry I joined late, so you may have already covered this. I was happy to hear that Karen Jackson joined the call. I had a few conversations with folks in Kengar who are also supportive of keeping, well, not keeping, but moving our communities into the same county council district, since we really are a very connected community with a long history. And I understand, while I haven't had time to look into this closely, that before the latest version of districts were drawn, at one point we were together. So I think there are a lot of good reasons to do that. And in terms of our representation with Andrew Friedson, I'm certain this has probably already been mentioned, but that can also change. We don't know that he would always be the District 1 representative. So I think we should.
He'll term limit out eventually. So,
exactly. So we should not let that be an overriding consideration, but rather there may be other reasons that, we have to consider. Tacoma Park being a municipality that like Kensington, has the diverse business and residential community. It's obviously larger as a municipality than maybe even some of the other ones that we're currently grouped with. So that's all I wanted to share, but I would support having the town advocate to put Kengar and the town of Kensington in the same council district.
Okay, thank you, Ann. Okay. Anyone else in the audience have a question? Or wants to make a comment? Okay, let's see any hands. Council, so how do you want to move forward?
Yeah, I think we should put together a letter. I think the point in the chat John raises is important. We should probably agree on some sort of prioritization for what we think is the most important. And I would argue that it's staying with Kengar. The second being to probably disassociate our district with Tacoma Park, and then trying to keep the other three municipalities together. Just a proposal, but to me, those are the priorities.
Okay.
Yeah,
maybe
I
the other two and three might be interchangeable.
Sure, but I echo yours, Nate. Number one for me is bringing Kengar and the town together into the same district, wherever that may be. But the second is then trying to remain aligned to the other municipalities around us and keep the municipalities as a whole grouped so that we can continue to work together.
Okay. Darren?
I tend to agree. I think though what we're dealing with is a moving target, meaning that if the rest of the county council decides to draw maps themselves, what they come up with could look very different from what we have now. And so I don't know that we can sort of lay out a strategy of just bringing Kengar into the Tacoma Park District or all of us into, the old District 1. I think, I don't sense a common interest, like I said, with Wheaton and Glenmont, because I don't think that they're as actively engaged in sort of local control like Kensington is. And so if I had to prioritize, I would say, move us back to the district that heavily contains municipalities. 2 would be kind of preserve where we are now, which is in this district, and the least optimal for me would be to go up to Wheaton Glenmont, just because I feel like would be on our own, swamped with a number of sort of unincorporated parts of municipality of Montgomery County. So I think the point that I'm trying to make is, I don't know that we can lay out a strategy other than we've got to get some intelligence from the county council of where they might be headed.
Okay. Bridget, any other comments?
You're still muted.
It's not letting me unmute, sorry. This is an ongoing problem for me. I kind of agreed with Nate's suggestion. I think, even if they don't listen to us, they can at least ask for what we want, and then they can ignore us, right? I mean, what's the harm?
Yeah. Well, I know, in the Tacoma, if you were to grab Kengar and bring us into District 4 and you stay with Tacoma Park is a municipality. The advantage of it, it's the 3rd largest municipality in Montgomery County. So that alone, while we may not have a lot in common as a municipality, and someone who's, has worked with them, they have the same services that they provide that we do. They understand how they have the same supermajority clause that we have in planning. So we have a lot more in common with them than you think. And I think they are a force if we are band together with the municipalities. So I think there is some advantage where Darren states that, well, we don't have any advantage with, Glenmont and Glenmont and Wheaton because they're not municipalities. We do actually have that in common with Tacoma Park. So I wouldn't rule that out completely. So it sounds like we're definitely in agreement that we want to ask that Kengar be brought into the same district as the town, and that we want at least the 3 municipalities, Garrett Park, Kensington, and Chevy Chase View, to stay within the same district. Is that what I'm hearing that we're all in agreement with? Whether they end up sending us into, changing the lines and putting us in Wheaton Glenmont, or keeping it the way it is with Tacoma Park. I think that's the thing that we really don't know. I don't think it'll be heavy lifting to ask that Kengar be put in to our district, whatever it may end up being. All right, so Darren, you want to take first stab at drafting a letter?
Of course I do.
Okay. My hero. All right, so Darren will draft a letter that will touch at least on those 3 items. And then we'll send it around to the council and we'll get it out. We'll definitely be in touch with Chevy Chase View as well as Garrett Park, so that, and Kengar as well, to sign on to a letter. Karen, I just need you to get someone to find out who, and Ann Lichter could probably help as well, of who we could send that to. Okay. All right. I think that ends that.
Karen is moved away from Ken Garbo. Can't quit them.
I know. Still a lot of ties there. You can never, that's why people can't give up Kensington listserv when they move out of town. They just can't lose that tie. So anyway, or the curb alerts, that's what they're all waiting for. So anyway, all right. Well, thank you all for that, that discussion. All right, so we're going to move down to number 4 on the University Boulevard bike lane pilot. Nate?
Okay.
I can start, Nate.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Connor. You
All right.
wanna
Yeah, I'll
start?
start. No, I'll
Okay.
start, and then Nate will fill in why, because Nate and I have been talking about this as it relates to the BPPA and what was the.
Okay, I thought you were doing Connecticut Avenue, but I'll let you.
I'm going to do that one next too, but the BPASWG. Nate, I don't know how you ever said that. I had to literally write it down so I could try and get all the letters right.
It's an initialism. It's not an acronym.
So how this came about, I happen to be, at an event over off of University Avenue with one of our District 18 delegates, Jared Solomon, and there were representatives from Open Streets Montgomery that were there. And they were talking about, at that stretch of University, they have done a road diet, and they took one of the lanes and they have converted it into separated bike lanes. And it has been extremely successful. It has gotten, people feel safer being able to bike because of the separation from vehicles. They, like a lot of our, Connecticut and University Avenues, have sidewalks that are immediately next to the roadways. They were higher rates of speed, but at this stretch of University, where it was 3 lanes wide, the volume of cars, they realized the road diet would do 2 things. One, it would open a lane for things like these separated bike lanes, but it also helped to channelize some of the traffic, which helped to slow it down. And it's been extremely, extremely successful, but it was a pilot program, and it was and is slated to be removed on November 14th. And so Open Streets Montgomery's representatives had reached out because I had given them my information to see, because I had exchanged the idea that we had talked about potential lane diet on University Avenue at our section of town. And with that lane diet, it could open up other uses such as a separated bike lane. And so ironically, here would be 2 ends. And then it would be a conversation of, how to bring those things together in the middle. So I reached out to Nate with his work on the mobility committee and what was previously the working group and everything to talk about, the recommendations that the working group and now the BPPA would make for our section of town. And if so, a willingness from us as a community to send a letter that to Secretary Slater of Maryland DOT and Administrator Smith, acknowledging the success of those bike lanes, the support for keeping them beyond a pilot, making them permanent, but then also to look at our section of town where we have also expressed that to SHA that we would like to see similar planning and infrastructure for those kinds of uses within the town. Nate, what do you want to add?
Yeah, just a little more detail, because we've, I think most of the council knows, but for those who are listening that aren't aware of the report that the working group put together, the Pedestrian Bicycling and Safety Access Working Group, Access and Safety Working Group, I can't even get it right. Back in January, one of the things was for a recommendation to do a road diet on University, right where it branches with Connecticut, and that's basically reducing a lane as it heads north towards Wheaton. So we took that recommendation to SHA when we met with them, back in the spring, and they said, okay, we'll study it. So they're studying it right now. They're in the process of doing a study on that. And we just needed to, when this issue came about that is happening in Wheaton that Connor's referring to, that we're asking in the letter for them to extend indefinitely, we asked them, hey, can we do this in Kensington on our stretch of University? They said, well, we have to wait for the study to be done. So we acknowledge that in the letter. There's, our support being pushed towards, or asking for us to, to support this Wheaton expansion indefinitely of the bike lane. and then thanking them and acknowledging, we know this has to wait until the study is finished, but, assuming that things go the way that we think they will, we would really like to have this considered a pilot in our stretch of university as well. So that's just, there's a little bit of nuance there because we know we have to wait for the study to wrap up, but we're not exactly sure when that will happen. We haven't heard yet, unless Matt and Tracy have heard from SHA on that.
Nate, how does it work from university once you get up to Veers Mill to past Georgia, where there is, businesses there that rely on on-street parking? How does that work? Would they take that away?
I don't know. I actually don't know. Connor, have you seen it?
No, that's part of what, talking to some the folks in Montgomery planning, that they're also trying to figure out, because one of the things they hear and data that they get from other communities where they're putting this in, these types of separated bike lanes in, is that it is helping those businesses because it is bringing more local dollars, hyper local dollars, people on bicycle and walking into those districts because they feel it is safer. They feel it is more pedestrian and bike friendly. But obviously, there's still a lot of traffic, especially towards Veers Mill in Georgia, kind of in the heart of Wheaton.
There's
Wheaton
a lot of congestion. There's a lot of
Wheaton,
congestion in that area.
There is, something that Wheaton and Kensington definitely share is those state highways move a lot of people through the area, right? Ours is Connecticut, theirs is, Georgia, Veers Mill University, that whole, while Wheaton is certainly building up, they also they move a lot of vehicles northward through that section of Wheaton, and they still need to move that traffic.
Yeah, where you have a separated bike lane, you can easily integrate it with parking. That's what's being considered on Kensington Parkway right now with the Montgomery County Department of Transportation's improvement along that area, and it integrates it together.
Okay, well, the advantage to Wheaton is they actually have a lot of parking lots, metered lots. So there is, optional parking off the street. If you didn't want to park out in front of a business, you could park in a parking lot.
But we don't have any parking right now.
No, we
along the
don't.
street.
Right.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
And
I'm just
so
saying in that section of Wheaton. There's no.
looking,
Right.
Pulling up the county's bicycle master plan network, the stretch that doesn't get separated bike lanes, but just side paths, for those who understand the technical difference, is really from our town border up until you get to Westfield Wheaton Mall. And then the plan calls for separated bike lanes all the way through the heart of Wheaton, past Amherst Avenue. And it's right in that location where the old WTOP satellite building is, which is where the dedicated the road diet has occurred. So that's right in front of Wheaton Forest Local Park. So the bicycle master plan calls for a connected separated bike lane from that road diet pretty much to the part of where we're asking for a road diet. Obviously, it just needs to be built in time as, either it's prioritized or redevelopments along that corridor of university occur.
Yeah, and it's not just, when they're doing the road diet study, it's not just to add a bike lane. They're also considering, widening the sidewalk and separated a grass buffer to make it safer to walk there too.
Okay. And that would follow after the pilot program? Is that correct? If it's successful?
I guess so. I guess they'd have to pilot whatever they're planning to do first, based on the data that they gather from their study.
Okay. Darren, Bridget, do you have any questions for Connor or Nate?
So I guess I have a question, because does the study that they're doing only relate to the, I don't know what I call it, north or eastbound movement of university from, where it begins at Connecticut northward, or is it the westbound direction as well?
I think they're doing both, but I don't see any, I don't know on what planet they would actually reduce a lane going south or west, because that's where it gets extremely congested. But
What?
I believe that in the meeting, they said they were going to do both.
Okay, because that's my only concern is, that's the reason we have to do not enter signs. That's the reason that rush hour traffic bails off of University at the terminus of University Boulevard. I don't understand how it could possibly work to remove one of those lanes.
Yeah,
And-
we didn't ask for it, but I think they said they would do both. I could be wrong, but we definitely emphasized the northeastbound direction. That's where it made sense. That's what we recommended in the report.
Yeah, because I think
Report.
after Lexington, the congestion really starts about there.
I mean, if they take a lane away from there, we're not going to need just, do not enter signs. We're going to need barricades and landmines.
Casually throw around landmine jokes. That's awesome.
Oh my goodness.
Anybody knew of any excess surplus forestry vehicles that could be used to block the roadway? Please let us know.
Find out the
I've heard
budget.
that there's one on the north side.
Yeah.
Allegedly, Nate.
Mhm.
All right. Any other council comments before we open it up to the audience?
I just wanted to say I had one or two people independently text me excited about bike lanes. So this is super popular and congrats. It's a good idea.
Okay. Well, we'll see what, the study says. So I can't imagine the northbound one would be that controversial. It should hopefully go through. Anyone else in the audience? Open it up. Have a comment?
Hi, Mayor, it's Ann Banville.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, hi, everybody. My question goes to, do we have any bicycle usage data in the trial period? I ask because in my travels back and forth to Four Corners, I do not see bicyclists. And so seems to me that's critical to understand before we give up lanes and things like that. I know there's this theory of if we build it, they will come, but that hasn't happened in the Wood Glen strip near Whole Foods, up off Rockville Pike and other areas. So I guess I'm skeptical. Thank you.
Okay.
And-
Thank you.
and-
To that,
Go ahead, Nate.
I was just gonna say that, yeah, I mean, I think data they collect from the pilot they're doing now will show a lot, because I can tell you, you've got to be nuts to ride your bike right now on University or Connecticut. I've seen people do it when we were doing our walkability and bikeability audit. I had that section. I saw some extremely experienced bikers, cyclists riding. I saw two. They looked, they looked very out of place. It's not a comfortable place to bike. Probably 99% of the population would not feel comfortable as is. But your point to, if they build it, they will come, and whether that theory is actually accurate, I think that's why we would pilot it first. So that's why it's a two-phased approach. We wouldn't suggest that they go and just build the infrastructure without us having some evidence that it would be used. I think that wouldn't be prudent. I think it's a good point.
I completely agree with it. And my anecdotal as to why I'm supportive is one of my kids, Little League seasons this year was at the Wheaton Forest local park, which is right there where they had the road diet. And so every weekend I was able to go out and see that there were a lot of people using it. I mean, a lot of people were making use of it. Clearly, it's opened up connectivity into Wheaton from the communities that are east of Amherst. And that's when I really believe that, okay, so long as you can separate the cars and the bikes and make it safe, people were eager to do it. I'd like to see their data from, their pilot completes next week, and see some of the data that they may have from theirs. And obviously, to Nate's point, I think, we pilot anything before permanent here to ensure that it's, having the proper and desired effect.
Thank you. I will tell you this, that traffic is going to kill Kensington eventually. From below Chevy Chase Circle on up, it's always dicey. But when you get past the Beltway area and then go up through Kensington, it is awful. And it is most time of day, even with the pandemic. And before we give up a lane on a major throughway, I really want us to think twice about what we're doing. And Nate, you referenced what's being considered for lower Kensington Parkway. That's pretty much dead in the water. The people who live along there use that area for parking, since they don't have places for service people and guests and others to park. They are reluctant to give it up, and I understand that completely. So although I am very sympathetic with cyclists, I really have mixed feelings about giving up so much on the idea of the cyclists relative to the cars that are used. That's simply not a major way that people commute. Thank you.
Let me just add to some of this. I, in my 20 some years of commuting down Connecticut Avenue, I've seen one cyclist on Connecticut Avenue. So, in some ways, if you build it, they will come, but if they don't, let's take it away. I think it's nuts to continue to have a bike lane, even if it's shared with traffic on Connecticut Avenue. I think that University Boulevard, what I'm hearing from the other council members is that, a recognition that it might work for the northbound lane, but it will not work for the southbound lane. Connor mentioned weekend trips on University Boulevard. I'd made weekday rush hour trips, and I just feel like, and I know it's during the pandemic and we're not fully back obviously, but I do feel like that the county or state, whoever did it, overbuilt University, and it can withstand the reduction from 3 to 2 lanes, just simply not when it ends at Connecticut, because that's a choke point. So, I hope we can sort of accommodate the various modes of transportation and see if we can't, build some safer aspects of biking along University.
Anne, did you want to make a comment?
Mainly, I want to express my concerns, and I think they're being heard. Thank you very much. Again, I point out the area over near Whole Foods, if anybody is familiar with that, is exactly what's being discussed. A lane was taken away. There's a parking lane and a bicycling lane and a sidewalk there, and the only thing that gets used there is the parking, which is much more difficult because you've got to maneuver through bars and so on to get there. So I don't know about this, folks. I just want to be cautious. And again, just circle back and just say the traffic ultimately is going to kill the aesthetics of living in Kensington if we're not careful.
Okay, thank you, Anne, for your comments.
Tracy, before you go to the other, I've got other people have their hand up, but I just want to correct Anne's point on the Kensington Parkway expansion of addition of a bike lane in that stretch south of town is not dead in the water. They're actually accommodating the residents' concerns and integrating parking and the bike lane. So I just, I think it's important that people know that is in the process of moving forward. As far as I've heard, I've been following it very closely. If you have other information, I'd love to hear it. But according to Kyle Lucas, it's still moving forward.
Thank you. They have not let us know that.
Okay. I mean, have they told you that it's been canceled?
We have a very active group that's following it and reporting back, and it got put on hold for some reason. And then I have not seen any recent report from the county in terms of taking everybody's comments into effect and what configuration they suggest as a result. I have not seen that.
Well, maybe we can get an update on that.
Yeah, I'll ask Kyle for another update. I know that he's been on leave for a little while, but
okay.
I'll get back to everybody.
Okay, thank you, Anne. We'll go to the other Anne Lichter. You had your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to say briefly that I think one of the benefits of what Connor described is that it was a pilot. And so to the extent that, there's a chance to explore the viability of road edits or traffic calming and increasing safety and mobility for cyclists and pedestrians. And if that indeed would have benefits to our local business community, benefits to our quality of life, it's worth exploring. And then we can find out whether it has the same, beneficial effects here, or if it doesn't. And so I would support getting in the mix for any pilot conversations.
Great. Thank you, Ann. Jack, you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Regarding what you do with parking and having the bike lane, an interesting idea. In the city of Montreal, they park the cars away from the curb and then have the bike lane between the parked cars and the curb. The bicycles are much more protected that way.
Yeah, I believe the one at Whole Foods that Ann was talking about is that way.
Yep, that's right.
And Washington DC does that some too.
Yeah, the bikes are by the curb and then the cars are out further, the parked cars.
Right,
So,
I think that's a good idea.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. Is anybody else? Okay, I'm not seeing anything. All right, I don't think there's any action on that. Is that correct? Are you?
There's the draft letter that
Okay,
is in
sorry.
the packet.
Yes.
That, is open for, edits, if other council members had it, or if you think it's good. The language in there is just to voice that we understand the pilot over on the eastern edge of Wheaton is coming to a close, and we, see that it has been very successful, and we, if it warrants, we would like to voice our support for continuing it beyond a pilot. And then, as Nate pointed out, it's really also to reinforce the study that we've asked for, and that, this is something that we are interested in as, one of the potential outcomes of the road diet study they're doing for the portion of University, in and at the border of the town of Kensington.
Okay, yeah, thank you. It was the one to Secretary Slater. So thank you.
Correct.
Okay. Council, are you want to make a motion to send that letter? I don't know if anybody had any edits. I didn't see any when it was sent out as a draft.
Unless there are no edits, I can make a motion.
Yeah, I just, in case
Yeah,
people want to
I move
reread it
to
after
approve
this
the
session.
letter to Secretary Slater promoting the expansion of the pilot, or the indefinite expansion of the bike pilot for the bike lane in Wheaton.
Okay, do you want to just add with maybe some minor edits if people need to refresh themselves too?
Sure. I move to, so I have to do the
Sorry.
whole thing over again?
Well, no, you don't need to. I'm just
Okay.
asking to add the edits in case we
With
need-
added edits that might come in after the council meeting.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye. Up, Darren, discussion?
I just want to make sure that potential edits includes chopping the study and the support of the road diet in Kensington from eastbound only. As long as that's considered a minor edit that can be included in the letter, I just do not want to support a westbound road diet.
Darren, the study is happening right now, and we're just saying it's going to incorporate the results of the study, or wait until we need to wait to advocate for this until the study's done. It doesn't say.
No, I hear that. It just says so that we can proceed with the associated road diet. And so I don't want to get too much into.
Do you want to add the
support.
word pilot on the east side? That's fine.
You mean the westbound?
No, we
Look,
would pilot
maybe I
north and
should
eastbound.
trust that the study is going to show that that would be a disaster. And that they won't support that. But I support edits. I just want to potentially read edits expansively, because I think that it would be a disaster to restrict.
Well,
West.
I think we have voted on allowing for edits. Somebody can define what expansive is, but I think if you want to make some edits and circulate it to the group, I think the bottom line is we agree that we want to send a letter to Secretary Slater supporting the bike lane diet pilots. So I think that's pretty clear. So, and then you can ask the council if they agree with your edit. How's that?
Okay, Mayor Tracy.
Just looking to move on before that baby starts crying. I'm wondering.
I feel strongly we'll be able to reconcile this. So
Okay.
just send your
Yeah,
edits
it
over,
will- it should be
Darren.
fine.
I think
Maybe.
Darren,
I
I don't
think
think
we'll
I
there's
got the
any.
parrot itching walk too, so.
Okay, so let's move on to the Connecticut Avenue speeds, please. Number 5.
Sure. So the mayor asked me, I brought this forward as something that I wanted to discuss with the entirety of the council, which is making a request to SHA to reduce the posted speed limit on Connecticut Avenue within the town, and really, focused on our commercial corridor, town center, whatever you want to call it. So I am right now defining that to be more or less Warner Street at the south end of town, all the way to the northern border at Perry Street. And as background, here's kind of how I came about this idea. It was I don't want to use the word collision when we're talking about speeds and people. It was an amalgamation of a couple of different things this month. One was Maryland DOT and Secretary Slater held a number of what they called their Walktober webinars, which were all about focused on pedestrian and bicycle safety, and specifically number 3 was about pedestrian safety, both from an enforcement standpoint and a built environment, but also MDOT very specifically talked data around pedestrian accidents and survivability. And so the numbers that they used were, accidents between vehicles and pedestrians at 45 miles an hour tended to have only a 10% survivability rate. But if you are able to reduce that speed to 25 miles an hour, they have a 90% survivability rate. So, what we would be looking to do is just within the town borders, in that area where we are trying to build a more pedestrian friendly, bicycle friendly, but also business friendly in activation, as we're doing redevelopment, activating sidewalks and streetscapes and streeteries and things like that. The other thing that came into this was, the ability to sit in and just listen to different agencies talk about development along Connecticut Avenue. And these agencies were Park and Planning, SHA, Montgomery County DOT. They each made reference to or made a comment about, redevelopment will help to slow down traffic, that, in its current condition, people wouldn't really want to eat outside, and traffic's too fast, there's too much traffic. And so what I saw though was them talking about, ways to slow traffic down. And the built environment is certainly one way to do it, but it's the longer term, more expensive way. In a shorter term, more impactful way is, or more immediate way would be to just lower the speed limit. But my third reason was in driving around the county on other state highways, namely Georgia Avenue through Wheaton, portions of University and Veers Mill through Wheaton, and on 355 through Bethesda. I've noticed that in all of their areas where their commercial centers are, the county has reduced, and State Highway Administration has reduced the posted speed limit to 25 miles an hour. The only area that has not had this is Connecticut Avenue. And so with our BPPA designation and our focus on trying to create a more pedestrian, bicycle safe and friendly area, I'd like to consider, and the action here would simply be writing a letter to Secretary Slater and the District 3 engineers and the Montgomery County DOT, requesting that they evaluate reducing our posted speed limit from 35 to 25 miles an hour.
Do we include the District 18 team in that?
Yes, I would, because I've reached out and talked to a few of them, and they're supportive of it as well. If it's what we want to do, but it makes sense to everybody. This is a trend that we are seeing more and more across the county. As I talked about these other state highways, it's already happened. So I would include our District 18 as well. And for that matter, our District 1 County Council rep.
Okay. And
Or
I know,
District 4.
Or District 4, or potentially District 5.
or 8 or 9. Let's go to District 10.
Yeah.
Let's make up our own district. Leslie had put into the chat something about lack of speed camera. We do have one speed camera. It sits on Warner going southbound, or excuse me, northbound at Warner Memorial. And Matt, it doesn't generate, well, we don't get any money from it, not very much, because people are pretty much naturally slowing up to the light. Is that correct? Is that what happened
So,
there?
2 fiscal years ago, we didn't receive any revenue funds. Last year, received about what, $3,000 or $3,500. But as you mentioned, the traffic is already slowing northbound when it reaches Warner Memorial Home Church.
Right, but then they pick up the speed again once they get through that light. So do you know if they're going to get, you said all of Connecticut Avenue is at 35? Is that what you?
No, so it's 35. I mean,
And
it's
I'm not
starting
talking about
at-
the village of Chevy Chase where they've got it.
Yeah, but starting at 495, the northbound direction is 35 miles an hour. Oddly, there are portions southbound right past Rock View Elementary School that drop to 30, but then come back up to 35. I can't even understand why. And when I tried to go to the state highways, their map that shows all posted speed limits, I can tell you that map has not been updated in 4 years. So the data from state highways is unreliable, but there's a couple of sections where just driving it, there's little stretches of 30, but by and large it's 35.
It'd be interesting to see what they end up with the speed limit there at Chevy Chase Lake. What that, because now with the density that's going in there.
Yeah, and my second suggestion outside of us engaging SHA for the portions within the town is, and it goes to what we've talked about before, working down Connecticut Avenue with the other municipalities, is to reach out in a more formal way to starting with Chevy Chase View immediately to our south and just begin a dialogue. Matt, I know you talk with their town manager, but council to council, just start to talk and have a dialogue about that whole stretch of Connecticut Avenue. And if there are things that communally we want to raise our voices together on around pedestrian safety.
And I know the answers to these questions, but I like asking you, Connor, because you answer them so well. But on a speed camera, it's not, you don't get a ticket when, if it's 35 miles an hour and you're going 36, you don't get a ticket until what speed?
So it's part of state law. State law is 12 miles per hour over the posted speed limit. So, thinking of the cameras along Connecticut Avenue where the posted speed limit is 35, you can go 46 and not trigger. And that's why it's very interesting to me, not that they set it up this way, but the data that Maryland DOT was showing during these webinars they were focused around 45 miles an hour and reducing to 25 miles an hour. Now, realistically, even a posted 25 means they can go 36 and not trigger a camera. But at 36 miles an hour from 46, you have a marginally more, you have a larger percentage chance of surviving an accident with a motor vehicle.
So it seems to make sense to ask to reduce the speed to 25 with the knowledge that most people are not going to go to 25. They're going to go probably 35, which is what they should be doing now anyway. So.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And I've talked to a couple of other neighbors and, some of the comments were, and it goes, and Banville, you had this point. I mean, we have congestion. And so there are swaths of the day where traffic doesn't even move 25. Fully acknowledge that. But let's just post the speed limit where we would like traffic to be going. And, we could do the whole town stretch, but I was very purposely trying to define our commercial corridor, which is, I see that as Warner Street at the south to Perry, because that is what we are trying to, as things redevelop, improve the sidewalks. That's where some of these bike facilities will go. more places are interested in doing outdoor dining, and outdoor dining would be along there. And this can be very successful as you look at other parts of the county where people are dining outside, right along the road. But what they don't want is a major highway where cars are going 50 miles an hour through, which I've looked at the data, and there's still people traveling 50 miles an hour in Connecticut. I don't know if they don't know the cameras are there, or they just know exactly where the cameras are. But when we put out the little boxes, there are people flying down Connecticut.
Yeah. All right, Council, you want to make any comments?
Yeah, just to add a couple things, because this also was one of the recommendations in the working group report back in January, and we brought the issue to SHA District 3 in the meeting that we had with them, the same meeting I referenced earlier when I was talking about the road diet. And their response was, okay, we'll look into it, but they're doing a study right now, another study from Connecticut, along Connecticut corridor, from the DC border up to University, to identify areas for improvements for pedestrians and bicyclists. So that is an important study that I think is wrapping up now. What that will actually inform our TLC grant study that we're going to study the Connecticut Avenue corridor that we got the grant for. That's happening right now. So that's going to be a key input to that. And one of the things that they're tasked with considering is a reduction in speed. So, of course, I think a formal letter would be helpful, especially if the conditions are there and we could just get it done. I guess the only thing that I'd be slightly hesitant about is that what happens if the study comes back and says it should drop to 20 in that area, right? If we do it now to 25, do we undermine our ability to do it further? Not saying that that's what's going to happen, but just to put that out there as a potential point of caution, but still I'd be very supportive of putting the letter forward.
Should the letter just mention we would, whatever the lowest speed that they would,
that they'll consider,
word it in a way that we're asking for 25, but hey, if you want to take it down to 20, we're for that.
But my fear is they may also then only go to 30.
What do you mean?
I think that, well, if we leave it open now, no, it's 35 northbound, 30. I'm gonna look it back.
No, it's 30 through town.
Okay.
Darren, are you talking, Darren?
Sorry,
I know you know.
There are parts of town where it is 35, but in the center of town, it's 30.
Like right around Howard, yeah.
And it changes, I think it washed, right above the speed camera. At Armory, I think.
Yeah,
but,
okay.
And it's weird because it doesn't change in the same place, northbound versus southbound. But I'm all for getting what we can for lower speeds. I'm, absolutely envious of what Chevy Chase Village has for actual speeds going through the town. And I think that's a result. I think the speed is technically 30 through Chevy Chase Village, but the lane widths, are a traffic calming measure.
All right, well, let me get some reactions from the audience if they have any questions. Although, Bridget, did you have any comments before we open it up?
No, I kind of think everyone's on the same page as me. I'm interested. I think it would be probably a lot safer to drop the speeds down. I see people speed up, fly right up into the cameras, and then stop. I'm right on Connecticut Ave. I see it all the time. So.
Oh yeah. Well, how often is that sign taken out there at?
I think Kathy Buss and I counted. It was like at one point 2 years ago, once a week, somebody would hit it.
Yeah, it's knock on wood. It's been a while, but yeah,
it has. I don't even want to talk about it.
I know. Sorry, I brought it up. Jack, you have a question. Your hand's raised.
Comment actually, apropos what Connor was saying and all, like to remind you that the kinetic energy of a car goes as the velocity squared. Also, the stopping distance goes as the velocity squared. So going from 25 to 45 makes a big difference.
It does. Thank you, Jack. Joe, you got your hand up.
I do, Mayor Furman, thank you. Sounds like a great idea. I'm sure there are a lot of people in favor of this. Like a lot of great ideas we've had in Kensington over the years, the question of enforcement looms here. It hasn't been discussed, and I'm just wondering how we're going to enforce this if we can't enforce other traffic calming measures such as no left turns from Frederick Avenue onto Kent Street and the like. I mean, there are a lot of places in town where great intentions, traffic calming issues or measures have been put into place, but there's almost no enforcement, and it's these areas tend to be violated in terms of the traffic regulations chronically. So I guess the question is for Connor is, what do you see in terms of enforcement of this proposal of yours?
Sure. So obviously, I'm going to state the obvious, but not to be flippant. We don't have our own police force, right? So we rely on the county. There's also the county Safe Speeds Corridor program, of which the majority of Connecticut Avenue qualifies for. So many, the 10,000 blocks all the way up to like 10,000, 10,700. All of those areas are areas that are part of that safe speed corridor where, one mechanism just of enforcement is cameras. We have one fixed camera. There are other methods of cameras that we could look into as a municipality in partnership with the county about how to set up those programs and do automated enforcement. But otherwise, yes, we are the enforcement of these of any traffic rule is we are reliant on the county, and so it would have to be us as a municipality advocating to MCPD and or deciding on if that's an enforcement area that we want to consider with that which we fund directly. But right now, our focus with, as you know, Joe, from previous conversations, our focus has been on our residential streets with those budgetary dollars, but those are the mechanisms available to us.
Would you be anticipating using the MCPD who are assigned to Kensington, who work for us, I guess, essentially? Would they be in the mix in terms of enforcing this proposed measure?
I think, we have to prioritize what are our enforcement zones in the sense that it's not an unlimited budget line that we have for those officers that we pay to come in and patrol our streets in some capacity. So, this is a trade-off. Would we rather them on our residential roads working on those things that we're hearing from residents want to be enforced, the do not enters, the cut through traffic, or the traffic along Connecticut Avenue?
So if I can just add to that, Connor, because I think that with respect to speeds, there are probably three things that are at work aside from a policeman with a radar. First is if you lower the speed, I think people's personal comfort level with pushing how fast they're going to go for fear of getting pulled over is going to go down as well. So if the speed is 35, they might go 42 without fear of being stopped. If we lower it to 25 or 30, their comfort level will go down. The other thing I would say is that the speed bump in some parts of the world is referred to as a sleeping policeman. It's a traffic calming measure that is always there and doesn't require an actual police officer to be there. Things like lane narrowing and other traffic calming measures are things that will slow speeds down without the need of an active police officer giving tickets. And then the third thing, which I know Matt has been looking into and will report on at some point, is we have a radar speed sign that right now I think it's on Howard Avenue, and just the awareness of your speed posted next to what the actual speed is it slows traffic down. So if we can get to the point where we can put that sign onto state highways, then I think we're going to see an actual lowering of speeds. I don't need tickets to be issued. I need speeds to be lowered. And however we get there is what I'm interested in.
Yeah, it seems like there's got to be more proactive enforcement measures though to make this work, given the volume of traffic that we have day in and day out on Connecticut Avenue. So yeah, we can have those little cameras on the side of the street, but I just don't think that for the length of the roadway that Connor Crimmins is referring to here, I think we're going to need more than that.
Well, unfortunately, you don't see the radar officers out there on Connecticut Avenue that you once did maybe 5 or 6 years ago. Now they use speed cameras, of course, a lot. So, they have the temporary ones that they may move in for a short period of time. But I think enforcement in general is just not an area that the police are looking at countywide, and traffic and traffic calming is more of what they're using. So, okay. So it sounds like we do want to write a letter. So we're going to send a draft around to the council regarding the speed, and we'll try to make sure it's worded in a way that will be reflective of the concern that Nate brought up regarding going down to 20 miles. So not just stating we want 25. So we'll get that figured out. Connor, did you want to start a draft on that?
Yeah, I can start a draft. And then I don't know who you'd like, but I think it'd be good to reach out, starting with Chevy Chase View, and just start talking about the bigger Connecticut Avenue, as kind of partner, sister communities.
Well, I know, I was just going to say, I know they're not a municipality, of course, but Rock Creek Palisades, which is the neighborhood that is just north of us on Connecticut Avenue, they have had a terrible time because, after you get past Rockview, the speed does go up, and the amount of, theirs is noise more than anything else. I know that neighborhood actually would sign on to a letter, I'm sure, if we were advocating for the lowering of the speed on Connecticut. Go ahead, Nate. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. No, I was just going to say that Jenna Coe, actually, the town manager of Chevy Chase View, is actually on our working group. So we've talked about this a little bit bilaterally, and she's very eager to have this conversation and continue it. I know she talks to Matt. We should also have it in the context of possibly asking for more speed cameras. I know that I get the sense there might be some more receptivity of that at the county level right now. So I think that is part of the solution, but I would echo what Darren and Connor have already said in response to Joe's comments. This is really about behavior change. It's, enforcement's a part of it. I would say a smaller part of it, and it's really about more of the potpourri of all of these solutions taken together. And that's why, to make a plug for for participating in this study that we're doing now on improving safety and access along the corridor. I mean, this is one of the many of solutions that are going to be considered together. So I think that it's really about changing behavior, and enforcement's part of that, but not the whole story.
Okay, great. Thank you, Nate. All right. So next item. I'm sorry, what? Okay, number 6, the town survey update. Alex, I believe you're going to give that survey, and want to share your screen?
Yes, give me just a second to share it.
Well, Alex is sharing that. Matt, do we need a motion or anything on the letter for speed lowering?
You could send a motion out and just say, as reviewed by the council.
Okay, I'm going back one. If I can, I move that we send a letter to SHA requesting the possibility of reducing the speed limit within the town of Kensington, pursuant to input from the council, and I will draft the first version.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, Alex?
Okay, so can you all see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the town sent out approximately 1,500 surveys to registered voters in the town. And we received back approximately 390, or we received 396. And just to refresh on the questions, question 1 was about whether or not the town should permit 16, 17-year-olds to vote in town elections. And question 2 was whether the town should permit town residents who are not US citizens to vote in town elections. So brief overview. Of the 396 we received by mail or in person, 394, those were the cards that we sent out in the mail, and 2 were printed from the website. We had about a 26% response rate. And so for question 1, the total respondents who answered yes was about 30%, and those who answered no was about 70%. And 394 folks answered that one. There's a bit of a discrepancy because there were a few who only answered question 1 or 2 instead of both. So I noticed, I read and tabulated all the comments, and there were some general themes that we saw. So those who voted yes for question 1, we should allow 16, 17-year-olds to vote in town elections. Most of those comments said we get young people involved sooner, helping them get engaged in and politically active in the town. And some said it gets them in the habit of researching candidates early. And then those who voted no, they also shared similar sentiments. Some said that a lot of these folks are still living at home and don't have a lot of financial responsibility yet. They could still be under the influence of their parents. The 18 is a legal threshold to adulthood for a lot of things. And if you lower the voting age, then it could become a slippery slope. Why not lower it to 15, 14, and so forth? These are federal voting guidelines, and a lot of them did express that they do want youth involved politically, but in ways that are other than voting. So for question 2, we had 49% of respondents say yes, and 51% said no. Of this, we had 392 responses. And some general themes for the yeses. We had a lot of folks say if someone lives in Kensington and pays taxes, particularly property taxes, they should have a say in town government. A lot of them also expressed the wish conditions. So if you pay a town property tax, if you lived here for a certain amount of time, if you can prove you're in the process of obtaining citizenship or here on some type of visa, then you should be able to vote. And then as far as no's, a lot of people said voting is a privilege of citizenship. You should be a citizen to vote. And they also expressed the similar sentiments actually to the yeses. They would be willing if the folks in question are legal residents with a green card. And that's all I have.
Okay, great. I think we were pretty pleased with the number of people that actually responded to the survey. So I think we got a good general idea of what people were thinking, which was our goal. So I think Nate and Darren, you were behind the survey questions. I don't know if you want to make comments on the report.
Darren, you could go first if you want. Or do you want me to go? You're muted. You're muted, Darren.
But what he's saying is really amazing.
It was, okay, I'm not
Can
sure I
you
can
remember?
if I can be as, insightful this time, but I would say that we've never had a town meeting that has had 396 people attend and give their views on a matter. So I'm glad that we did a survey, because I feel like the level of engagement on this was greater than we would have for other things that we put out for public comment. I would like to feel like the results as to the 16 and 17-year-olds was fairly decisive. I feel like the results as to non-citizens is susceptible to further conversation. One of the things that in Alex's summary that was interesting to me was the comment that maybe if we expand it to have it be U.S. citizens plus green card holders, that would be a good way to slice the issue. So anyway, I really appreciate the staff putting the survey together. I think it was a good way to solicit broader opinion, which I think we needed on this issue. That's all.
Nate?
Yeah, I had a similar reaction. I think, thanks again to the staff for putting the survey together. I think it was very decisive on that first question. But I think now we've collected enough information to know that it's probably worthy of pursuing more input on the second one. I guess I just had a question for, I guess, the council, but then also maybe Matt and Alex, if you knew how many, first of all, the two surveys that were printed from the website and then submitted, do we know what they said in terms of their qualitative information that they submitted? Because I'm assuming those are people who are not able to vote now. So it'd be good to hear those views specifically. And then do we have a count of how many people this would actually affect? Is it like, are we talking, I don't think we ever collected this information. Are we talking like 5 households? Or are we talking like 50?
So I have all the surveys still. I don't know off the top of my head what the paper ones voted. And I don't think we're talking about a terribly large number of people for either group, but I don't know the exact number.
Okay.
So our voter list through the county has 16 and 17-year-olds on it already. Susan, you might remember it was less than 50 for that. And we don't have specific numbers for non-residents. I know other than the residents that have reached out to us, there's, maybe 8 or 10 that I can think of off the top of my head. So.
Yeah, I guess how will we even identify them? That's a totally different question, but yeah, I think that maybe, so for me, I would like to suggest that we pursue a public hearing for the non-residents, giving them access to vote, and then hear residents' views at a meeting. Because I think that if it's 50-50, that's a good debate, and it'd be great to hear discussion on that. But I'd love to see these people who are talking about if we choose to change our code and charter to be able to vote in the next election. We shouldn't wait anymore. That's all.
Connor?
First, I'll echo the thanks to the staff. 2 things I came away with. One, I do think the first question was fairly decisive, but to the comment that there are other ways that 16 and 17-year-olds can be involved. One is there are some committees that may make sense that they may, want to join, but I get it, maybe not. The other thing, though, that we have actively done in the last couple months is that the town went and we got ourselves registered with Montgomery County volunteers so that we can, when it makes sense, if there are, events going on in the town, we can offer service hours to, the kids in Montgomery County schools who need them for graduation. So there are ways that we now have the active ability to sign off on some of those SSL hours. So if they are helping the town out in a capacity, Alex, I think the rose is pinned on you, that you are helping to keep track of that when we have an event. But that's another way that at least the town has taken a step to say, we realize that we've got 16 and 17-year-olds and even younger who have this requirement through Montgomery County Public Schools to have service learning hours, and now we can help to approve those hours through the official Montgomery County volunteers. So there's other ways that kids can get involved in helping the town. It kind of goes both ways. My other comment is just a kind of, I would like, Nate, I'm picking on you, so I wanted to make sure you knew you heard my call on you. I want the debate too. I think 50-50. I do want the debate. Here's what I worry about. This can be a politicized issue, and there are some people who may feel very strongly, and putting out an anonymous survey allowed them to voice their side, one or the other, whatever it may be. But are they also willing to come into a Zoom, or if we're back in session, into the council chambers and stand up and give their same thoughts on that topic? And I do wonder if we would get a fully open debate on it. I'd like to see it. I think there are some people who would, I just feel we wouldn't get as much of an open dialogue as I would hope.
So then you think we have enough information to, if we chose to move forward with it?
That's the thing. I don't. I think if anything, one idea might be that hey, it's 50-50. I still think we should have a public hearing, because there are still some people who would like to be heard, and we owe it to those people, and I want to hear from them, both sides. But it also says that we don't have to do anything with this, in the sense that what we could do is say, you know what, we're going to run the survey again next year or 2 years from now, and just see if the temperature is shifting.
I'm laughing because I'm seeing Joe Campbell's head explode, even though he's not on the video right now. No, I think that's a good point. But I mean, hey, I'm willing to take that vote now. I mean, what other information do we need? It's 50-50. We're talking, when we get the information about how many people we're talking about in the end, I mean, it's probably on us to do it if we're not going to have a public meeting.
I mean, just to chime in here, I would argue that it isn't 50-50, right? If we look at the overlap of no votes who are saying yes, if, right, effectively, I mean, I wonder if the way we wrote the question, if we change the question slightly, that number might change dramatically, right? So if we're saying people who are here legally, or people who have permanent residency or XYZ, and live in the town and pay their taxes, like, should they be able to vote? I wonder if that number wouldn't change significantly.
I think you also have to explain how they would be, that you have to actually register with the town. You're kept in a separate list because they're not on the county roll. So we would have to they would register directly to the town in order to vote, and have to prove in some way, whatever, criteria it is that we're coming up with, that is voted on.
I think in this town, that's less a divisive question than we think.
Right. No, I understand. I'm just saying that would be how it would probably have to work.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Okay.
So what I would like, one approach forward is, I'm certainly happy to, given the 50-50 split, field a potential code, or maybe a charter revision. I can't remember which it is. I think it's charter.
It's both, isn't it?
I would like Alex to go through the surveys, and because I do think those are the more honest feedback from the residents, as opposed to who show up at a town meeting and speak. I would like the written comments for the non-citizens to be compiled, and see if we reach a kind of a lodestar of that view. If the lodestar points us towards green card residents, but nobody else, then I think that's informative.
Well, right now on this call, we have 8 residents that are just hearing this information on the results of the survey. So I think it's important that we get the survey out to the residents as a whole. And that's why I was in an earlier email just was suggesting that we put this in the journal, the next journal, which unfortunately wouldn't be until January. And then explaining what the direction of the council would like to take regarding the survey. So we would obviously need a consensus on that. If the consensus is to move forward, I mean, it's basically a 4-month process of an introduction, of a hearing, of a vote, and then you have 30 days for it to take effect. So that would get you probably to May. And the next election would be in June. You would obviously have to get people to register as well.
Let me try to respond to a couple of the comments in the chat. Just historically, there was some interest in expanding the registry, the voting eligibility to 16 and 17-year-olds. I think after the survey and tonight, we're moving past that, but there are also movements throughout the country to expand it to beyond simply citizens of the U.S. I don't have strong feelings about that. I think by and large, the residents in Kensington who would be affected by that are, the Canadian spouse of a U.S. citizen who lives here and has lived here for a long period of time, the Irish spouse of a U.S. citizen who's lived here and, is actively engaged in the community. And so from that perspective, we were looking at, I don't want to say that the election of me in June was a momentous event or that it had national implications. And so expanding it to the Canadian or the Irishman, I don't think it's a huge deal. And so that's why I would be interested in considering it and hearing from people about that.
When you say hearing from them, you want to talk personally or in a hearing?
Oh, I'm talking about, we propose a charter revision.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what we propose. I mean, based on, I would like to see sort of the complete set of comments, if anybody submitted them for the non-citizens. And if we get, my personal temperature is expanding it to green card holders would be appropriate. These are people who have made an effort to be a permanent resident of the U.S. It puts them on a glide path to citizenship if they choose. And so to me, they're kind of indistinguishable from our typical resident who's here for 30 days and suddenly eligible to vote.
Could I just make a suggestion that instead of saying green card, we say permanent resident? Because, like, for example, Salim came here when he was 2. He didn't get a green card till he was 27. But he was here legally. So I would just suggest that maybe you lower that bar a little bit. Folks like Salim kind of get lost in the slush with that.
What was, I'm sorry, and this is, I'm not an immigration expert at all. A, did he vote for me? And B,
despite my efforts, yes.
what was the status until then that we could consider bringing into the
I think he had a student visa by virtue of the fact that the attorney that his family hired kind of dropped the ball at one point. So he had a student visa. Literally everyone else in his family had the green card. Salim technically had to leave and come back.
And it's a weird, I mean, I have a little more experience than I'm letting on. It's whether or not you get a green card before you're 18 and after is a big deal. So
yeah. And I don't know the nuances.
All I'm asking is that ultimately, if we move forward with this, we are doing it on our own without the help of sort of the county bureaucracy that can handle this, or the Tacoma Park bureaucracy that, is much bigger than we have. So we're asking staff to process voter registrations, and showing a green card is, easy. Showing, I want to make it accessible for them to say, and, to say, there's a line that you meet or you don't meet, and we have consciously expanded it from U.S. citizen to X.
Can we do a little digging on it? Can
Yes,
we discuss?
absolutely. We're not doing anything tonight.
Okay.
We don't even have a charter resolution, charter revision.
Got it.
Okay. So sounds like we're going to be kind of digging in a little bit more into the second question and maybe discussing further at the December meeting. Is that what I'm hearing? We can send the survey, obviously the results that the report that Alex gave tonight can be posted on the website, and we can also send it out in the summary, correct, Matt, when you send out the meeting summary? So there'll be an opportunity to get it out that way as well, to get started with, you know, getting the information out. Because I think people who filled out the survey are going to be interested in what the results were. I mean, I certainly would. So I know, just looking through the chat, I know one of the questions was what started the survey, what prompted the survey, and that was how many years ago? 3 years ago, 4 years ago, a young man came to a town meeting asking that 16, 17-year-olds be able to vote. And we gave him some homework. I know Councilmember Hill Zayat had offered to assist the young man. He didn't really follow through with his part of the homework, but it was a kind of a nagging question because some other municipalities have allowed for 16 and 17-year-olds to vote. And the council decided, well, let's see what more people are thinking. We just felt it was necessary to get more information from people. And the additional question came from every time we have an election, you always have someone who lives in the town and says, I can't vote, but I own a home, I pay property tax, and you know, this is my town, why can't I vote? So that prompted adding the second question. So so I really appreciate that, you know, close to 400 people responded to the survey. And I think that's a real success. We don't do this, I can't remember ever receiving a survey, quite honestly, not in a long time. And so I think it's hard to get people engaged, especially on important questions. So I think having people respond to the survey was really positive for us in helping to be your elected officials and hearing you, because we, you know, as I said, we got 8 people, you know, on this meeting, and so it's good to get that kind of feedback. So again, I'm hearing that you, Nate, you and Darren want to dig into the survey a little bit more with Alex and maybe come back to the next meeting with some recommendations.
Yep, that sounds good.
Yeah, if we, I mean, I'm all in favor of trying to resolve this prior to the next election.
That's fine.
It's November and the election is in June. So I guess I would, you know, Nate, if you're willing, I'd almost like to really scope out a charter revision at that point and, you know, run it by.
Yeah, but we can do, maybe dig around for what the right bar is to set, I think.
Right. And yeah, that's what I'm saying is I'd like to propose, or I'd like to, you know, start circulating a charter revision that reflects that bar.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, at the very latest, we would have to introduce something by February. Absolute latest. Okay. All right. So is there any other questions from the audience? I'm not sure. I've seen chats, but I can't. It's okay. I just asked for comments. Joe, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Furman. Wasn't sure if you were going to go to the
I was getting there.
attendance or not. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. You know, actually, I thought that the response rate would be much higher than this. I was guessing that myself, that would be about 50%. So a 26% response rate, I think, contrary to your view, Mayor Furman, is a disappointing result. And we've had elections in which, in fact, in which sitting council members have amassed more than 500 votes. So there are ways of getting people to turn out, and there are ways of getting people to participate in the elections. And I think this was a an expensive exercise. The town manager mentioned a couple of meetings ago that it would be about $1,000 to do this. And I just don't see that there's a whole great lot of demand for, for these kinds of surveys. I think we could easily attach a question, this has been done in the past, I think, to the annual election in town, the ballot on the annual election with, essentially a referendum question. And it would be cheaper. We have a potential of getting as many, if not more, in the way of turnouts. And I think it would be a good idea. Someone mentioned the idea of rerunning the poll. Why not rerun it at the next election in June and get a good sense of what the town has to say at that time too? I mean, it would be more cost effective, it'd be more direct, and I think it would attract more attention. So anyway, I kind of think that a 26% response rate, we could have done better. And I would like to see these data reported in detail in the town journal as well as on the town site, including the question wording, because as you know, and as council members I'm sure are aware, wording on the questions can really bring a sharp and major influence to how the polls are responded to. So the question wording is vital. And pollsters will tell you that they can get almost any kind of response they want depending on how the question is worded. So that is something to be kept in mind. So I would love to see a full report about the poll, including the question wording when this is published.
I agree. I think having the actual question before each result is a good idea.
I would just like to say that in my low point, I received 72 votes in an election. And I've never taken that to diminish my self-importance. I mean, I still get a vote. And elections, are who turns out. And in that election, I got 72 votes and won. And so I think we need to stop focusing on the percentage turnout and say, was the process, full? And I think this was more than we had to do. We could have just proposed a charter amendment and seen who show up for a town meeting. And we went above and beyond that. And we got 390, which as I pointed out, we've never gotten at a single town meeting ever. And so I'm willing to read into the results and move forward from there.
Yeah, well, we've had council members who've scored more than 500 votes in town elections, and 72 votes in a uncontested election is really not much.
4 council members, my vote with 72 votes counts as much as the other because there's no better process here. Nobody's
disputing that. No one's arguing that. But I'm just saying 72 votes in an uncontested election is nothing to brag about.
You keep talking about 500, and I'm saying, it's elections are elections and they count. So just, live with it. It's better than the alternative.
Well, the only comment I'd make on it is I appreciate that we took the time to do it midterm because we didn't put it on the ballot last June and we didn't want to wait all the way until next June. Because, kind of trying to play down the middle of both of you, like, Joe, we don't even know what's going to, we don't know if we're going to have a contested or uncontested election this coming June, right? So, yes, we've had votes that have gotten 500, 600, whatever the final count was of respondents, and that was amazing. We had contested council, we had contested mayoral. It was a perfect storm of activating voters. But if it ends up that we have an uncontested election, we might only have 72 people replying. And then that's
71, Connor.
Dang it. So,
yeah, the point is not about the elections in town. So the point about it is how to get people to show an interest in this. And I'm saying people have been using different metrics. And I'm saying that there's one great metric that shows that we can get a lot of people to vote in town in contested elections. That's all.
Yeah, I just phrase it slightly different to say I think the process we did here of mailing out a survey helped us to get to 400. Whereas if we had just taken it up as an agenda item, we would have less than 400.
Okay, let's I think we've got our marching orders, Nate and Darren, and I don't see any other hands or comments, so I think we will move on to council reports. If you have an individual report you would like to make, and I will start with Nate.
Okay, just 2 or 3 very, very quick things to announce. We're gonna, maybe Matt will announce this, but we're gonna have a mobility committee meeting sometime in the next couple of weeks before the next council meeting. Also wanted to make a point that the ride-on Route 4 route is under consideration for expansion right now. It currently goes from Silver Spring and then basically does a U-turn around the mark, goes past the mark and then U-turn in Kensington and then back to Silver Spring. And they're considering to expand the access to continue on to the Wheaton Metro Station, which I would argue is a very, very good thing for connectivity between our 2 areas and increased MARC ridership. So there's going to be a public hearing, and I would just request to be able to give some public testimony on behalf of the council in favor of that expansion. And then I have one more point. I don't know if we need to discuss that.
All right. So I was just looking on the town website. Have we changed the title of the traffic committee to the mobility committee? Has that been officially changed? I just want to make sure there's no confusion about that.
There's been no formal change on staff side. I know when I sent the preliminary email to Councilmember Engel and Councilmember Hilzade, I kind of used both terms because we weren't sure yet.
It's tough to let go of old things.
Yeah. So
well, I don't have any, I don't really care. I just want to make sure that we're consistent, that if the traffic committee is now the mobility committee, and I don't think
we went with
the committee's name is necessarily a council action, but I think we should introduce that the fact that the committee will now be called the mobility committee, and we will change it on the website so people know where to go to look for the information.
As of right now, our draft agenda says Traffic Mobility Committee, TMC.
I make a motion to
Just
call
make it the
it
mobility
TP.
committee. That's what we agreed to.
That's fine.
I thought it was going to be the TPMGLMLQ committee.
We're not making it more complicated. It's the
Okay,
mobility committee.
so are we officially changing the traffic committee to the mobility committee? Is that what I'm hearing? Yes?
I
Okay,
think the answer is yes. Yeah.
okay. Is there any objection from the other 2 council members to changing the preference?
No.
I'm not hearing any, so on the website, can we please change traffic to the mobility committee? So you could put in parentheses was, I don't think we need that, but I just want, people are going to be looking for the mobility committee and not being able to find it. So that's my point. Okay, I'm sorry, Nate, I interrupted you.
No, that's okay. And I should have mentioned in the context of that, the ride-on expansion, the date is December 7th, Tuesday, December 7th. So I'm willing to provide testimony, just my own opinion, or I'm happy to do it on behalf of the town. But I encourage others that are people who use public transit or want to see expansion of service to connect Kensington to other areas. I suggest, participate and submit comments. You can testify, like most of these things, you can testify or provide written comments.
Okay. Well, the traffic committee, will they have, they probably won't meet before the 7th, is that correct?
No, we won't have met.
I'm sorry, the
before
mobility
this-
committee. I'm already messing it up.
I
We
can
won't-
just
I don't
walk
believe
down
we
the
will have
street and
that.
talk to Nate. It's fine.
Well, I mean, if you're going to do testimony on behalf of the town, it is helpful to just at least give your, a draft of the testimony to the council, just so we
Yeah.
know. Yeah. Okay. Okay, in case you're asking, the ride-on bus to drive down Farragut Avenue or something, just so Darren has an opportunity to.
It goes right by St. Paul Park.
Yeah, there you go.
Great, so I'll send that around. And then the last thing is just on a very high note, we have a new working group co-chair of the Pedestrian Bicycling Access and Safety Working Group of the Mobility Committee. Chris Zappi has agreed to be co-chair. And I also, he's not here, but I also just wanted to say a huge congratulations to him because he was just appointed to be a member of the Washington Suburban Transit Commission. So he just got that appointment from the county, and he'll also serve on the working group as co-chair. He's been involved from the beginning, but he's going to step up. And
So he won't have any conflict issues?
no, I asked him, he doesn't perceive any conflict.
Okay, good. Okay. All
That's
right.
it for me. Thank you.
All right. Bridget, anything on the mobility committee or?
No, not on mobility, but I did have a little update. Sorry, very scared. I'm gonna wake her up right now. Brian Toms, who I had mentioned earlier, who was looking for a kidney, got his kidney.
Oh,
So
good.
he had that transplant and he's doing great. So I just wanted to let people know.
Oh.
He got it through a chain, so one person donates and it keeps going.
Oh, wow.
Especially if you can't donate to the person you want to. So those things are amazing and work. So if you're inclined, get tested, because even if the person you're trying to help can't take your kidney, somebody else can.
Oh, nice. Okay, thank you. Connor?
Only one, I've talked enough about Thrive, I think, but somebody else is talking about Thrive, and that is the Wheaton Urban District has a meeting that is open to the public tomorrow night. It's at 6:30. I just did it, so if you Google Wheaton Urban District, you can find the website and they'll provide I believe it's a Zoom link where they will talk Thrive. And looking at the agenda, it looks like Gwen Wright, Director of Montgomery County Planning staff, is slated to be a part of that presentation. So it's another area, an opportunity to hear about Thrive. Biggest thing I can say is, when the journal comes out in the next days to weeks, please read. There's some stuff in there about Thrive and attainable housing, and let us know if you have any questions.
Okay, I'm hoping people will have the printed journal in the mail this week. Of course, I don't control the US mail, but it should be in their hands this week. And of course, the electronic version is available online. So if you are anxious to read about attainable housing or Thrive, Darren's op-ed from the Bethesda magazine, please, you can read it online. You don't have to wait for the the printed version. Connor, one thing I wanted to check with you, there's also a Thrive Coalition meeting. Didn't know whether
There is.
you wanted to go to one and I could go to the other.
I think that would be smart. You get to pick which one you want to be a part
Well,
of.
do you want to do the mid-county just because that's kind of new information? I think
Sure.
probably the other Thrive would probably be just maybe some rehashing. So.
Yep, sounds great. So I'll do the Wheaton one.
Right. Okay, good. Darren, anything?
No, just to continue the Thrive theme, I would say that, if you read what I wrote in the Bethesda magazine, you see that I question some of the principles underlying Thrive. And, if we can't obtain some provisions at the county level, we're going to be looking at what we can do at the municipality level. And so if anybody has thoughts about how we can, exert control and influence over the, densification of housing in our town, I'd be more than happy to sort of, add that to our learning. I don't know where we're going with it, but I would certainly support, making sure that Kensington has a different level of review of these than is currently being given at the county level.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I would like to, and I don't have much to report this month, but I would like to remind everybody about upcoming events, which is also on page 11 in your journal. But we have the dog parade coming up on this Saturday, and that is sponsored by the town and McInerney Real Estate. So just be sure if you've got a dog and you want to participate, that starts at Flynn Park at 10 o'clock.
Now, Tracy, do you have to have a dog to
You
attend?
do not have to have a dog. You could bring your stuffed dog, and Aoife could have her picture taken with her little stuffed dog. So
Asking for a friend.
yes, so please bring the kids. It'll be fun. And then of course we have the Nighthawks. This Thanksgiving dance will be at Town Hall on the 24th, and then the menorah lighting on the 28th of November. So I hope you all have those on your calendars, council members, and that you will, you may not be wanting to dance all night with the Nighthawks, but please come to the dog parade and the menorah lighting if you're available. So, and then there's tons of December events too, and I won't bore everybody with those, but they're in the journal, and I hope everybody will take advantage of these great events that the town puts on. So, all right, so let's move on to the town manager and staff. Matt, Susan, you have anything you need to?
Just remind residents that leaf collection started today. We'll be running through Friday, December 10th. So please place your leaves to the curb, and the public works crew will be around again.
Yeah, and we choose not to do a schedule. I know we've tried that in the past, but the crew prefers to just be able to hit, the neighborhoods. Certainly, if you think your leaves have been sitting out there too long, you can call, but it worked very well last year. So I'm pretty pleased with and the crew works really hard during leaf season. So I hope everybody appreciates it. This is not an easy job to be doing. So, all right.
I also know that there are occasional movements to ban gas-powered leaf blowers. While our staff is collecting the leaves, it is an incredibly orchestrated, choreographed event to watch them move these leaves into the street and suck them up. And so just please do that to appreciate that I don't think we can get that power from batteries. And this is the time of year when the use is most significant. So consider that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And you always have the option to bag your leaves as well. So, but if you can get them to the curb, that'd be great. All right. So let's go down to ordinances, resolutions, and I'm sorry, public appearances. Sorry, forgot all about that one. Is there anyone? Jack, get your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I'd just like to comment. I think the name change to the Mobility Committee is a bad idea because it adds unnecessary confusion. People are going to look and say, Mobility Committee, what the heck is that? Traffic Mobility Committee is a much better choice.
Okay, thank you, Jack. I'm sorry, I missed that, your hand on that earlier conversation.
Yeah, I was going to inject that. I didn't know.
Sorry. Okay.
I wasn't fast enough. I just like to say a few words. That the gentleman who passed away recently, you mentioned,
Carl
Porter.
I'm sorry, what was his last name?
Porter.
Porter.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank
you.
He
was a friend. He was an interesting guy. He knew a lot about all kinds of things. I had a number of wonderful conversations with him. I just got an email from Ellie who says there will be a memorial service this Saturday, November 13, from 2 to 5 p.m. at the Veterans of Foreign Wars Hall in Wheaton, address 11,316 Fern Street in Wheaton.
Okay. All right. Well, it'd be nice if she sent that out on the listserv.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
I just forwarded it to you.
Oh, good. All right. Well, thank you, Jack, because I couldn't write down fast enough. So
yeah.
Thank you.
I put it in a comment too.
Oh, good. Okay.
And lastly, a couple of astronomical announcements. Next week, the Leonid meteor shower peaks in the evening of the 17th into the morning of the 18th, with about 15 meteors per hour. Unfortunately, the nearly full moon will cause less than ideal viewing conditions. Next, the next night, November 19th, there will be a partial lunar eclipse. Although they call it partial, only a small sliver of the moon will not pass into the shadow of the Earth, the umbra. It'll be what, 95, 97%. The eclipse begins when the first part of the moon enters the Earth's penumbra at 1:02 a.m. and it will peak. I guess it will peak about 3, and it will end at 7:03 a.m. just at sunrise.
Okay, thank you. All right, Joe?
Thanks, Mayor Furman. I was wondering if Connor Crimmins had any further details on the latest on Thrive. I mean, he gave a fairly ominous report last month, and I was kind of half expecting some further details this month about where things stand, because the county council seemed to be, at least according to the council member, moving pretty rapidly on this. And is that still the case, or where do things stand, Connor?
Yes. So I want to very intentionally separate Thrive and attainable housing and talk about them separately, but as succinctly as I can on Thrive. Thrive has been transmitted to the council for the council to review and start to talk about. What I will say is just recently, we had a chance to speak with council member Albornoz, who's an at-large, but he, is within the Kensington area. He lives over by Summit, and he expressed only his personal views, which was that he thinks really the council needs to take a look at slowing it down and moving it back a little bit, that there are areas of concern that he has heard through the town, our coalition, and other groups across the county that, while there may have been a number of events, the true totality of all of the of participation really hasn't been open and accessible to everybody as the council would like to. It needs to be more representative of a few other jurisdictions and populations, but also that the plan is missing some critical high target things like metrics and trying to explain the difference between, define affordable versus attainable, and what are the goals that the county is trying to achieve with Thrive. So, well, he is only one member. If this slows down, he does become president of the council in January. He has a little more say over the calendaring it, but his personal belief is just it has moved very rapidly and it could use more discussion. Will it go back for a full rewrite? No, because I'll be the first to say there are good things in Thrive. There are some really good aspirational things, but there are also some things that are without greater definition, without greater detail, and without understanding what it is we are attempting to achieve, i.e., what are the goals that we are reaching for, and what are the metrics that we're going to measure whether or not we are attaining those goals, then I just wonder, okay, what is the purpose of Thrive? It needs to, I know it's a visionary document, but it needs to help lay out what we're trying to achieve. Now, that is separate and distinct from the attainable housing strategy. So Thrive is the big general plan. Another thing that Councilmember Albornoz, but others that we've spoken to also, one of the things that a lot of communities, and it's not just Kensington and the west side or the east side, civic associations and communities across Silver Spring and other unincorporated parts, their big thing is a one-size-fits-all approach, like a ZTA, zoning text amendment, is not in the best interest of the county. That the needs of individual communities are very different, north to south and east to west. And so to take an application approach by virtue of a ZTA versus taking a planned use approach through sector planning, like they've done in the past, is problematic. And I share this thought. I think, what is good for Kensington as far as density and upzoning and 15-minute living is going to be very different from places like, Burtonsville and places like Poolsville, and yet still very different from places like Bethesda and Silver Spring that are larger urban districts. And so a one-size-fit-all approach, it does not make sense to me. And I do think the sector planning process is something that is very important to ensuring that the application of these development goals is more localized to the individual communities that we're trying to affect. I'm going to pause in case you had a thought or a question on that, Joe.
I maybe a little clarification request. I thought that the attainable housing was a central element of this Thrive initiative.
Yeah, so this is where some of the things have shifted over time. Initially, the thought with Thrive was Thrive is going to help drive affordable housing. And then as more digging and research and writing and the reality was affordable housing has specific metrics. It's based on income level, and it's based on the percentage of your income level that is used to pay for housing, with 30% being that number. And so what they realized is our area in general, but certainly down county and along the red line, transit lines, the land value there it's expensive. And those corridors where they want to see the density and the upzoning is the most expensive land in the county. And as a result, when you factor in the acquisition cost for that land, plus demolition if there's an existing property, then the planning process, then the building process, there's no way to achieve affordable housing without government intervention. So right now, the county has one lever, which is the moderately priced dwelling unit program, MPDUs, where they require developers of new developments to reserve a certain percentage of their units for moderately priced dwelling units tied to income levels. That's great, but it's not going to naturally create affordable housing. And so that's where the shift in verbiage has gone from affordable housing to attainable housing. But one minor thing is there isn't really a clear and distinct definition by the county of what they consider what is attainable housing, other than the way they've spoken about it, which has been, well, it's any unit of housing at a price point that is less than the going rate for a single family home around it. So if the going rate for a single family home, I'm going to use big round numbers, in Kensington is $1 million, then anything under $1 million is attainable. And so building townhouses that are $800,000 and $900,000, that fits in the attainable housing model. But it's not helping to achieve what we keep hearing people talk about, which is we need a distribution of housing across the price points, right? From $1 million and $1.5 million houses to things in the 900s, 700s, but also we need to try and retain and create as much housing as we can, more in the $400,000 to $500,000 level. But the other thing that's not talked about is we talk simply in the terms of creating numbers of dwelling units. But a dwelling unit could be 350 square feet. It can be, 1,500 square feet. The number is just, we get credit because one dwelling unit or 10 dwelling units was created, as opposed to trying to match what the county needs. And what the county keeps saying is, well, the biggest need right now actually is housing at the lower end of the price point, but for families, 2 and 3 bedroom. Well, okay, if that's what we need, then we have to figure out how do we promote the creation of that specific type of housing. And then when you get into the attainable housing strategy, some of the things we're talking about are changing the by right development requirements so that on a piece of property in the R60, which is what Kensington is, where typically it's been single family home, you could create by right a duplex, a triplex, and because we're in the priority housing district, a quadplex. So a structure that has 4 units of housing. But the chances of those units of housing being individually 2 and 3 bedroom places that accommodate families, which would mean it would be a 12 bedroom place collectively, are very low. I think we will result in numbers of 1 unit and efficiency type units of housing, because the focus has been on units of housing as opposed to what is the housing that the county needs. So I don't know if that helps to clarify.
Thank you, Councilmember Crimmins. Finally, Mayor Furman, very briefly, I just noticed recently the upgrades in the Clum Kennedy Park, and they look great. They look terrific. I mean, they're small in the overall scope of things, but nonetheless, they're really very nice. I'm glad to see them.
Okay, thank you. They will get bigger. And we hope to add some color in the spring too. So right now.
What do you mean get bigger?
But some of the plants will get a little bit larger. They're, they're teeny tiny. So hopefully.
You mean growth will come in the spring kind of
Growth
thing?
will come in the spring. Yes. So what you see, and they're deer proof, I've been told. So that's helpful. Anyway, all right. Well, I don't see any additional hands, so let's move down to the ordinance, resolutions, and regulations. Matt.
Mayor and Council, before you is resolution number R-18-2021, a resolution of the Mayor and Town Council of Kensington authorizing and ratifying compensation of Green Herlocker PLC attorneys and authorizing continued legal services as necessary. This is essentially paying our legal fees for the Pepco rate case.
Okay. Well, Council, any questions? Okay. Is there any questions from the audience? Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number R-18-2021.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. All right. Number 2.
Resolution R-19-2021 is a resolution of the Mayor and Town Council of Kensington authorizing the extension of the existing refuse and recycling contract with Ecology Services Refuse and Recycling LLC for the term of 1 year and increasing the number of units served with a per unit price increase. We have our existing contract had a 3-year contract, which ends on December 31st. Within the contract that was approved by the council in 2018, there's 3 one-year options. This is picking up the first-year option, and the reference to the units, increased number of units is because the original contract did not include the annexation. So the new includes the annexation numbers.
Okay.
There is a 2.5% increase for calendar year 2022 proposed within the initial contract, which was provided in 2018.
Okay. Council, any questions? Any comments from the audience? Okay, I don't see anything.
Mayor Furman, I did. I guess I couldn't
Oh,
raise
sorry.
my hand quick enough.
Okay.
The town manager refers to the 2018 contract. I think this contract before we got to the current vendor was bid. Is that correct? Is my memory correct on that?
I believe so. It was
Correct.
with, was it affordable? What was the
AA Refuse
AA Refuge? Yeah.
was the awarding bid contractor. They they removed themselves from residential collections. The council back in 2018 agreed to take the second lowest bid that we received, and we renegotiated those contract terms to allow for a 3-year contract with 3 one-year renewals.
So this would not be due for bid until when then, this contract?
If we
Or
pick
could it
up
be
the-
bid now? Could it have been bid this year or
Yes.
next year? And it wasn't because, why wasn't it bid?
We have 3 one-year renewals. It's in the best interest of the town to pick up the renewal.
Okay, well, that was my question then. So after those 3 single-year renewals, this contract could be bid again?
Correct.
And is that the expectation, the anticipation that it will be?
I mean, it's up to the council. I mean, we would have 2
Of course
other
it is.
options after this year.
But more than likely, it would be in 2023 that we would probably, is that correct? Because our 2024 is when the would be the last one. Is that right? Because we're
Correct.
22, 23, 24. So in the year of 2024, we could put it out for bid then to pick up in 2025. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I of course, it's hard to anticipate what the council is going to be doing, or even who's going to be on the council in 3 or 4 years. But I'm just wondering if the expectation is, as of now, to put this out for bid as it has been bid in the past. Because, as you know, Mayor Furman, in my view, there's too many of these contracts that are being let by the town without bid process. And I don't think that's a very, very healthy or wise process.
Well, when you get a contract that allows you to do these 1-year extensions, by year, that means that, you can either put it out for bid or you can pick up the 1 year. If you're satisfied with the work and the price, then you continue on with the contract because you
I
put
understand
that in
that
because
completely.
you didn't have to go in through to the bid process.
I understand that completely. My question, though, is not on those single year renewals, but at the end of that 3-year period, is it the likely expectation that this will be sent out for bid? I know you
I would
can't
say that it is.
anticipate.
I would say it is likely that we would put it out for bid after that amount of time.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, if I can just go back one, I looked it up real quick. Tentatively right now, the introduction of the zoning text amendment related to Thrive, as of right now, is scheduled for the December 9th County Council agenda.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing to do with trash, but thank you. All right, you got that in there. All right, so let's see. Now you're making me lose my place. We're on number 2. Okay, is there a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve resolution R-19-2021.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, number 3, Matt.
Okay, my favorite resolution every year, resolution R-20-2021, a resolution of the mayor and council of the town of Kensington proclaiming November to be Municipal Government Works Month in Kensington, Maryland. This is for the Maryland Municipal League.
I'm ashamed to say I did not. I guess you're waiting for this resolution so we can put the flag up. Is that correct?
Yes.
So the flag will be up tomorrow if we approve it, right? Okay. So, council, any questions? Any questions from the audience? Okay, I don't see any hands. Could I get a motion?
I would move that we adopt resolution R-20-2021.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. I believe that is the end of our agenda, so I just need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
You were just dying to get back to that baby, aren't you? Is there, I'm sorry, I missed a second. Nate, was that you?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Aye.
thank you very much, and we'll see you around town.
Have a great night, everybody.
You too.
Night.
Bye-bye.